On the program today, South Sudan launches its first oil licensing round. Tanzania Parliament approves 36.6 trillion shillings for 2021 budget. And OPEC Fund signs a $20 million loan agreement with the Gambia. Thank you so much for joining us for the midweek edition of Business Incorporated on Channels Television. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Well, we kick off with the midweek show with market numbers on the African continent, where most of the markets we track were doing good at intraday, except for Nigeria, where trading on the floor of the Nigeria Exchange Group was already in the red zone, shedding 0.08% of its all-share price. It's been red all through this week. We're looking for better days ahead before the week runs out. Egypt's EGX 30 was on the flip side, adding over 0.7%, while South Africa added over 0.1% to its all-share index. Kenya also closed Tuesday's session positive. Over in the Middle East, investor sentiments were mixed at intraday. Dubai's index was up 0.4%, while Abu Dhabi index declined 0.12%. Elsewhere, the Qatari index shed 0.09%, while the market in Saudi Arabia was positive 0.01%. Europe's stocks were muted this morning, with investors in the region awaiting key purchasing managers' indexes from the Eurozone. Well, Conrad has updates from the PMI and other market activities. Hello, Conrad. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Imi. Thanks for having me back.
You're welcome back. Well, purchasing managers of Germany and the euro area become more optimistic. That's indicated by the market purchasing managers indices, which were updated today. Conrad, give us the details and tell us about the impact on the market in Frankfurt.
Well, the researchers of the Market Institute are reporting about an impressive, as they say, acceleration of economic activity in the Eurozone, which is reflected in those purchasing managers' indices. Business growth in the Eurozone is accelerating at its fastest pace in 15 years. The numbers look like this. The index for the Eurozone has increased to 59.2 points. The German purchasing managers' index has increased to 60.4 points. Both readings are significantly above market's expectations. The Institute says the recovery is happening in all parts of the economy, not only in the manufacturing sector, but more and more also in the services sector, which of course is profiting from the reopening of business after the corona lockdowns. Capital investments have increased as well as employment. But the Market Institute also says that inflation pressures are on the rise as well. Shortages of raw materials and shortages of skilled workers are driving prices up, and this is likely to remain that way for a while. And this is why the German share index DAX today has not been positively inspired by the strong economic data. The outlook, of course, on inflation and about a continuous discussion about inflation is sort of limiting the potential for shares. Investors, of course, wonder about the potential implications for monetary policies. That makes them insecure, and that makes them, stay away from buying further shares.
But shares in the German vaccine maker BioNTech are trading close to a record high. So what's driving that?
A number of very upbeat announcements at the annual shareholder meeting of BioNTech, where Ujur Sahin, who is the founder and CEO of BioNTech, says that the vaccine is not only helping against the coronavirus, but also against the latest Delta variant, which is the mutation of the virus first detected in India. The company also plans more production so far this year. More than 700 million doses of the vaccine have been produced and distributed. The amount is expected to rise this year to 3 billion. And for next year, Ujjwal Sahin announced that the production will be even above 3 billion doses of the corona vaccine by BioNTech. Also, positive news for shareholders. Dividend is a possibility for next year, and all this combined sort of is giving a very encouraging boost to the shares of BioNTech.
Well, another close high is Italian motor maker Piaggio. The Vespa is the most famous scooter produced by this company, which is celebrating its 75th anniversary this year. Why are investors so optimistic?
Well, Piaggio is really going through golden times. Sales are up 22% compared to pre-pandemic times. Many customers in the pandemic wanted to avoid public transport, but they didn't want to buy a car, so they decided on buying a scooter. That's why Piaggio has seen such a strong increase in its sales. Also, Piaggio has done a lot to align its production lines. Just like a big car maker, those scooters are now produced from a platform, which means that from one basis you can produce several models, and that keeps, of course, production costs low. And last but not least, Piaggio plans to enter or to become bigger and more important in the market for electric scooters. Next month, the Piaggio One will be launched. It will be coming to dealerships worldwide. The Piaggio One is an electric scooter model targeting the lower price end, something where Piaggio was not so strong in so far, but now this price segment of up to 3,000 euros is something that Vespa is targeting, that Piaggio is targeting, and investors believe it, they like the story, and they go for the shares.
Yeah, who wouldn't go for something that's going high? Well, talking about wise investment, that is. Well, thank you so much, Conrad, and enjoy the rest of your day. Well, we move over to the UK now, where Juliana is standing by at our London studio to also bring us up to date with what's going on there. Hello, Juliana. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Innie.
Yeah. So UK employment surges in the face of inflation. Is it just like what Conrad said is happening there in Europe?
It is. I was actually going to quote what Conrad was just discussing with you in Frankfurt, because just like the Eurozone, the UK have also received some flash composite PMI data. This is the only real way that you can have a look at how the private sector is doing. And during the month of June, the figures have been good. It came in at 61.7, slightly down than the record highs we saw last month in May for 62.9. But this is still fantastic across all sectors, manufacturing, construction and services. We are seeing record amounts of employment. Lots of people looking for staff to work. The problem is there are a few shortages. We discussed this yesterday, particularly within the hospitality sector. Lots of specialist workers are deciding to go back to Europe. But the square focus now is on the UK's economic recovery. Lots of attention is going to be drawn to tomorrow, where the Bank of England Monetary Policy Committee a gathering will take place. Not expecting any imminent hikes in interest rates, though that is the topic of discussion as chaired by the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. But if the economy is recovering the way the data shows it is, there are some economists that are suggesting, you know, why not ease this quantitative easing or start tapering it off? Currently, I believe it stands at about £895 billion. Is that going to start tapering down? What is Andrew Bailey, the Bank of England governor, going to say about this data and about what we heard happening over stateside? That's the topic of discussion right about now.
And how's the market reacting to all of this perspective and expectations from tomorrow and all?
Pretty good. We had a subdued start this morning. We didn't see the record highs that we witnessed in Wall Street in Asia after Powell's testimony in front of Congress. But as soon as the PMI flash reading came up, investors got cheered. So we're in positive territory in London at the moment. The FTSE All-Share is up 0.15%. The FTSE 100 is up by 0.23%. And the FTSE 250 is up by 0.18%. In currencies, the British pound is also up on the US dollar by 0.13%. Down, though, on the euro by 0.05%, but trading up against the Japanese yen by 0.13%, Innie.
Yeah, and thousands of people caught up in the UK's Lizol scandal can now heave a sigh of relief. There's a formal commitment now from Aviva. What are some of those high points of that commitment?
Yes, big story. The probe by the Competition and Markets Authority, the regulator that looks after consumer issues. They started this probe a couple of years ago, and it was dubbed leasehold prisoner scandal because tens of thousands of homeowners in the UK that own the home but don't own the grounds were basically left out of pocket and complaining that they couldn't sell these properties because a lot of insurers, and in that case it was Aviva, and home builders, and in this case it's Permison, were doubling the ground rents or just overcharging how much you would pay on top of your mortgage. It was so much of a scandal that the British government did say that from 2017 these leasehold properties would no longer be available on new homes that were built. The problem is it's not actually been made into legislation, so the CMA have got involved and they have had some concrete commitments by Aviva and Permison. I believe Permison have said that from now on, all homeowners that are in leasehold properties will be able to buy the grounds, so that the property that the home sits on at a cap of £2,000. That seems to be a big win. Aviva have also given firm commitments to, I believe they say about a fifth of all properties here in the UK are sitting on a leasehold agreement. So, yeah, this is an absolutely amazing win for them. So they can now sell off their property or live within their own property without having to pay a third party to live there.
Yeah, good news for them. Well, thank you so much, Juliana, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Well, moving on now, shares in Asia Pacific were largely higher today following overnight gains stateside that saw the tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite rising to a record high. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index was among the biggest gainers regionally as it advanced 1.46%. Taiwan Stakes was also saw Ribos gains, gaining 1.22%. Mainland Chinese stocks were higher by the afternoon, with the Shanghai Composite rising 0.46%, and the Shenzhen Component gained 1.02%. The Nikkei 225 in Japan was fractionally higher, but the Topix Index slipped 0.29%. South Korea's Kospi edged 0.39% higher. Meanwhile, shares in Australia declined as the S&P AX 200 fell 0.49%. MCSI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan traded 0.73% higher. And in the United States, stocks index futures were flat today, a day after the Nasdaq Composite Index hit an all-time high and the S&P 500 closed just shy of 1. Futures contracts tied to the Dow Jones Industrial Average advanced just 36 points. S&P 500 futures and Nasdaq 100 futures were both a little changed. All three major averages finished Tuesday's session in the green, reversing losses from earlier in the session amid the strength in the technology sector. The S&P 500 advanced 0.5% to close just 0.2% away from a fresh all-time high. The Dow rose 163 points after earlier in the session falling more than 120 points. The Nasdaq Composite was a relative outperformer, hitting a new intraday all-time high and posting a 0.8 gain on the session for a new record close as well. That was the Nasdaq's first new high since April 29th, as investors have started to rotate back into big tech shares. And oil prices rose today after industry data showed U.S. crude inventories fell more than expected, reinforcing views of a tightening supply-demand balance, with road and air travel picking up in Europe and North America. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures jumped 33 cents to $73.18 a barrel after 14.16 cents yesterday. Brent crude futures also jumped 42 cents to $75.23 a barrel after giving up a 9 cents yesterday. Also, all eyes are on OPEC Plus plans to do what they would do when they meet on the 1st of July as they gauge the demand recovery, OPEC Plus is discussing a gradual increase in supply from August, but no decision has been made yet on the exact volumes. This was the information from OPEC Plus. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll head straight to the African continent. Do stay with us. It's Business Incorporated on Channels Television. You're welcome back. You're still watching Business Incorporated on Channels Television. A recent Global System for Mobile Communications report reveals that there are 1.2 billion registered global mobile money accounts. 560 million of these registered accounts are in Africa. Report states that sub-Saharan Africa has been at the forefront of the mobile money industry for over a decade, and last year it continued and accounts for majority of the growth. What should the continent be doing with this report? Ashley Manuel, the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of EFINA, shares her thoughts on this. Hello, Ashley. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Good afternoon. Well, analysts say that by 2025, the African mobile market is expected to have 850 million customers who drive between $2.5 trillion to $3 trillion transaction volumes annually. What should Africans be doing to maximize this platform?
That's a great question. It's very important. New research by EFINA, the EFINA Access to Financial Services in Nigeria 2020 survey, found that 81% of Nigerians now own mobile phones. So there's really a tremendous opportunity for using mobile phones to run businesses, access goods and services like electricity, healthcare, education, etc. And digital financial services, including mobile money, really plays an important role in supporting this opportunity. So in Nigeria, we can really maximize this platform by enabling more widespread mobile money. As you mentioned, globally, the number of mobile money accounts has really continued to grow. Many other countries in sub-Saharan Africa have now surpassed Nigeria in terms of financial inclusion because they have more widespread mobile money, which Nigeria does not yet have.
Wow. And according to your reports, in Nigeria, banked population moved from 40% in 2018 to 45% in 2020, according to your reports. Now, what does this say about the level of financial inclusion in Nigeria?
Yes, so we've seen that financial inclusion has continued to grow incrementally. Since EFINA started measuring financial inclusion in 2008, we've seen this continued growth in banking and in financial inclusion overall. When we measure financial inclusion, we look at the percentage of adults who are banked, as you mentioned, is now 45%. We also look at, in addition to those who are banked, those who don't use banks but may use other formal or regulated financial services, which is now 51%, up from 49% in 2018. And then we also look at those who don't use formal or regulated financial services, but might use informal services like savings groups or cooperatives. And that is now 64%, up from 63% in 2018. So we see that financial inclusion has continued to grow, but the progress has been relatively slow and not fast enough to reach our national financial inclusion strategy targets for 2020.
Well, I'm tempted to ask, how do you think it can be accelerated?
Yes, so as you were mentioning, I think that mobile money and digital financial services is really the key. So we've seen in many neighboring countries in sub-Saharan Africa and in other parts of the world over the past decade have really seen much more rapid growth in financial inclusion because they have more widespread use of mobile money. In Nigeria, although our proportion of adults who are banked is 45%, as you mentioned, only about 4% use mobile money accounts, whereas in other countries it could be 60% or more.
Well, on the other hand, in Zambia, the use of formal financial services offered by the banks has decreased from 24.8% to 20.7%. Does this mean that Zambians are embracing the virtual channels more?
Yes, that's correct. While use of banks was only 21% in 2020, as you mentioned, in 2020, 59% of Zambian adults used mobile money. So we can see that many more were using digital channels. And it seems that there are a few reasons for this. One is affordability. So the Zambians who aren't using banks, when they're asked why, many are saying that they can't afford to use banks are too far, etc. By comparison, mobile money accounts are cheaper. They don't charge fees for things like savings. Another reason seems to be really ease of access and use. So mobile money often can reach further into underserved areas where there aren't bank branches. And right now in Zambia, it seems that there's also much more widespread use of mobile money. So for example, somebody told me that in Zambia, you can walk out onto the street and buy tomatoes using mobile money. In Nigeria, that's not something that we currently do. Typically, if somebody walks to the street and buys tomatoes, most of those transactions are conducted in cash. I think that it's interesting because in many markets where mobile money has taken off, use of banking has also then increased because banks can partner with the mobile money providers to offer services like loans. In Zambia, so it's interesting that in Zambia, the use of banks has actually decreased a little bit. And it seems that maybe because the banks didn't initially move fast enough to partner with mobile money operators and new providers. So I think that there's some lessons for Nigeria in that it's really important to have a wide range of services, including mobile money services offered by a wide range of different companies with different business models and capabilities. But also partnership is really important among the different types of financial service providers.
Yeah, and also with those will come employment, which is one of the things Nigeria needs. Yes. Thank you so much, Ashley, for sharing your thoughts with us, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks very much for having me. You too.
You're welcome. Yeah. So moving on now, the Ministry of Petroleum of the Republic of South Sudan has announced the launch of the country's first oil licensing round. The ministry says it has identified new exploration blocks with potential hydrocarbons and has compiled crucial data to provide to interested investors, operators, and counterparties. According to the new analysis commissioned by the ministry, approximately 90% of South Sudan's oil and gas reserves remain unexplored, providing unprecedented opportunities to the international investors. The oil licensing rounds aims to attract interest from a diverse group of foreign investors to a region that is already home to oil and gas majors from China and Malaysia and over to Tanzania, where members of the parliament have unanimously approved the national budget estimate. They voted through open ballot. As outlined in parliamentary standing procedures, the government had asked the August House to approve 36.6 trillion Tanzanian shillings, which was unveiled last week by Finance Minister. The amount is slightly higher than the previous budget estimate of 34.5 trillion Tanzanian shillings, which was approved during the 2020-2021 fiscal year, which will come to an end on the 30th of June. And in Gambia, the OPEC Fund for International Development has signed a $20 million loan agreement with the Gambia to co-finance the expansion of the Bethel Harding Highway. The 22-kilometer Bethel Harding Highway is an important stretch that provides a link between Old Jashwang and Banjul International Airport, vital to the connectivity of the area. The expansion and upgrading of the highway is co-financed with the Abu Dhabi Fund for Development, the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa, the Kuwait Fund for Arab Economic Development, and the Gambian government. In addition to the present loan, OPEC funds public sector commitments to the Gambia total close at $128 million, supporting transportation, education, energy, and multi-sectoral projects. Well, that's it on the program for today. Thank you so much for watching Business Incorporated. I'm Ini John Mekwa.